PingSunday has the special permission of Coach Chen Kangning. Please don't upload the video without the permission of Coach Chen and PingSunday.
Many people emphasize, oh, I need explosive power, I need explosive power. He adds forcefully with his hand, and suddenly it becomes like this. Is it enough to go out? Yesterday, I saw several kids. What state did they end up in? Some were slowly brought back after finishing, while some finished, but still lingered at the back. Why? Yeah, he might be emphasizing something like, I want to hit the ball fast with quality. Then, coupled with his own slight panic, the process of gathering strength is correct. There's no problem, right? But when it comes to exerting power, then what's the point of all that energy buildup you're doing? Isn't it a waste? The energy built up didn't have any effect on the stroke in the end, and after all that effort, you just use your hand to send the ball over, right? It's disconnected from the body. This is what, not only is there no slight delay in the hands, but they also exert force prematurely. I think this is something we need to pay special attention to during the process of forehand attacking or looping. It's more obvious when you loop because you can borrow force in attacking. But when you serve a backspin and try to loop it, you can't borrow any force. If you try to loop like this, you can't drive it, and you feel like when the ball comes, you loop and it sprays out and it goes down, unable to loop. Move it. Then you tell him, pay attention to the friction, pay attention to the friction, but this actually isn't a matter of friction, right? One, when he rushes the rhythm like this, the hitting rhythm is wrong, he catches it at the rising phase, not waiting for the early descending phase to exert his own power. That's the first point. Secondly, all the power he gathered didn't manifest in the ball. It was just an improperly timed swing. Can he put the ball on the table? I'm also confused. When attacking, he can barely get the ball on the table. But once it's a topspin against backspin, with that kind of habit, it's very difficult to execute a good topspin. So I think this is something everyone should pay special attention to. Why do I emphasize that when you look at the main techniques of forehand and backhand, including techniques within the table, there's a turning inward and outward. The action of pressing the arc is because there's a cliff over there, right? You know how to climb, right? I can climb by using the pull, or using friction to create an arc. But I can't it will fall off the cliff. So what do I need? Accelerate and press the arc. Where is this action of accelerating and pressing the arc? Near the table. It's by using impact, see? Towards the inside here. Outward, right? This is the later part. Accelerating the curve compression. Why do I need to do this? Because I need to accelerate the curve compression. Adding quality is simple. Slow it down and I don't push against it, I just go directly. That's a slow spin, right? If I want to attack it, I add a bit of push. Doesn't that immediately make it aggressive? But why is the controllable arc stable? It's because when I actually hit the ball, it's friction. I just added what action before that? Belly pushing hand pushing the ball action. Did I hit it solidly? If pushed solidly, it's pushed out. Even if you add more in the latter part. Oh, blindly add that so-called outward friction spin in the latter part. Does it still have meaning? Why doesn't it have meaning anymore? In an instant, hasn't the ball already left your hand? Previously, someone argued, debated this thing, whether it's friction first or impact first, but actually, it's friction. What is hitting? Hit is when your whole body, whether it's your center of gravity or core, drives your hand to create inertia against the ball. I criticized my student and he talked back to me. You see, top and collide are related, right? So when you turn to hit the ball, isn't that just a collision? You just didn't hit it solidly. If you did hit it solidly, where would the chance for friction be, right? So what's my viewpoint? I can only speak for myself. It's using the inertia of turning and hitting, and finally, when actually making contact with the ball, your intention is friction. You can't just aim to hit the ball. If you only think about hitting the ball, it'll get knocked out. Now, if the kid always hits the net, what's with some kids? Their pull shot is too straight, and they can't stretch the ball. What should you tell them? You should tell them to throw the ball out. Even if at first it crosses the net improperly, it's okay to throw a couple out of bounds. Well, why? Your goal is to let him generate force and send the ball forward. At this time, it's worth it if his foot crosses the net. Once he gets the feel of throwing the ball out, you can tell him to turn it in smoothly rather than adding it inward from the start. Therefore, many kids, when they pull the ball at first, they always hit the net, or after pulling the ball, it's very short, right? That's the reason. He deliberately pulls it inward, deliberately curls it inward. He wants to use force, right? But the result of this force is either into the net or very short. Long pimples. Many enthusiasts like playing with long pimples. Why? Look at Nisha Lian when she attacks with her forehand at the start of a backspin ball. Have you noticed that Nisha Lian raises her elbow? You can take a look next time. Why does she raise her elbow? Normally, raising the elbow in table tennis is an incorrect action. Why does she have to lift? Let me give an example. With short pips, if I slightly reveal it, bang, I can create a curve and then accelerate for an attack, right? She's using long pimples. Her shots are slippery. Even harder than my inverted rubber. So what to do? She almost has to do it like this. You serve. So does she need to raise her elbow? Because she uses this technique to bring the ball over and still land it on the table over there. Shot. She can't just get it past me. So anything is a dialectical relationship. Nothing is absolute. At this point, raising the elbow is correct. If she followed the proper topspin technique I just mentioned, where her hand looks nice without raising the elbow, she would truly hit the net. So you might say that this action is incorrect, but when applied to her and to this ball, it's fine. It's right. So you see, table tennis is a matter of dialectical relationships. When kids are looping the ball, if they keep hitting it out and are intentionally pushing forward, what should you remind them? It's at the end that they need to tuck in their abdomen and stick out their butt, especially using their index finger to bring in the paddle's head. That's how they can keep the arc down. People who only know how to push forward tend to hit it out of bounds easily. Why? If your movement is really deliberately forward, it is actually forward up, not truly forward. When you straighten, actually forward is enough. You can't go further. What to do? You need to inwardly turning inward. It's turning inward. Look, I'll show you from the side. I'm turning inward, which is actually going forward. If you truly go forward, what happens? It goes out. Though the subjective idea of going forward is not truly moving forward. Correcting to alignment and moving inward with momentum is the true forward movement. Then can we apply the same principle to the backhand? If you deliberately push the backhand forward, what is it? It's obviously an upward movement forward, right? What happens halfway forward? Doesn't it go outward, right? So after correcting the forward movement, the natural outward motion is actually the true forward motion. Therefore, the proprioception of your body and the actual effect it presents can indeed cause discrepancies. So first, I think we need to understand this. Secondly, we need to guide children well. Otherwise, many kids will end up hitting forehands like this.
Backhand played like this.
This is something to pay special attention to. That's why I don't recommend learning to twist like this. You just make an outward and downward gesture, but it doesn't affect the ball, right? You don't achieve the effect of curving the shot. So even if your pose looks good, it still goes out. So what action should you take? This, an action. It is genuinely directing the force outward and downward, not just a movement going outward and downward. When you apply this force, the movement naturally appears outward and downward, right? But if you deliberately pose like this, you might not be able to truly impart the force onto the ball. This is why I don't recommend, when teaching children, to specifically emphasize hitting to a certain spot, like hitting to the left eyebrow. I think this teaching method is low. When kids are learning to loop the ball, I think there's no need to rush them into practicing powerful shots. Including when enthusiasts are learning to play, what should you guide them to do? First, focus on speed, not on recklessly using force. When they don't yet have control over the ball, if they start with random force, it will definitely be just brute force. Moreover, when he is not creating good spin and arc on the ball, how can he have speed? How can stability be high? If he smashes 10 balls and only lands 1 and gets overly excited about it while the other 9 are missed, he automatically ignores those 9. Therefore, when we start practicing, we should focus mainly on the mid to late stages of the descending phase, the lower arc. Thank you. Don't practice this rhythm. Feeling more, right? Yes, wait. Practice this rhythm first, then wait. This means that once you are skilled and have good control over the ball, adding quality becomes very simple. So the child should first focus on brushing through the mid to late stages, stabilizing the stroke, gaining speed, and effectively controlling the spin and arc. Then you can transitioning to practicing attacking strokes, I think, would be more appropriate. Definitely don't start kids on this right away. They're not paying attention to rhythm and the ball just goes out. Sometimes it works, right? Because you fed them well. They feel really good about themselves, but it's not real, right? He has no speed. I think it's still important to progress gradually, find the rhythm. Hey, tell him to pull after the ball comes down from the highest point. Don't rush. That's the first thing. The second point is to subjectively use the thumb and index finger to create spin and curvature. Once he masters this, then you can add quality. I think that starting this way might not seem as flashy, but once he masters it, he will get better and better. If you start with a lot of force and it becomes a habit, he ends up hitting the ball without control. Then you'll wonder why he does well in practice but often misses in competitions, as even parents might ask why he can't land a shot in a match, right? Yeah, you feed him the ball and he can hit it onto the table. But what's the use of that? Ultimately, you want him to be able to play well against others, not just hit the balls you feed him well. I think the training approach method, the method is very important. When you teach them to brush, many kids do it well. They know to go forward and outward, right? They're very standard. But once they learn to rally, they start pulling like this. Serve a backspin. Is it that many children end up hitting backhands like this? Why? They think they need to move forward to increase friction, right? They lower their hand to pull the ball forward, resulting in this state. But what is the proper way to hit? It's moving forward and outward. That's how you rotate.
This way of moving out is a more reasonable method for swinging, right? The same goes for the forehand. Oh, it's too much spin, right? It's all going out. So what to do? You need to tell them to adjust and follow through inwardly, right?
Read more about table tennis on my blog, PingSunday.com. Get free ebook and coaching advices. See you in the next video.